Good morning, students, and welcome to our lesson for today entitled Understanding Past and Past Perfect Tenses. So, mostly we will be talking about what we will be talking about is past and past perfect. But before that, we are going to have a review. Okay? Now, before I go and tell you what we're going to do, let's have first our lesson goals. Okay? Our lesson goals for this day is number 1. Is we have to review the concept of verbs. Okay? Because some of you may have a wrong notion of what a verb is. Basin sayop ang iyong hunahuna unsay verb. Okay? So that is what we're going to talk about. Number 2, you are going to supply the past and past participle tenses of regular verbs. And number 3, familiarize the past and past participle forms of irregular verbs. And number 4 is you are going to determine if the verb or the sentence is in past tense or is it in past perfect tense. Okay? So let's begin our lesson for today. Are you ready? Okay, good. I hope you're ready there. You have your notes. You have your notes with you. You have your pens. Because today you're going to learn a lot. Okay? So let's start with our definition of verbs. Now, Sir Kevin, what are verbs? I've been hearing about verbs, but I actually do not understand it, even until now. Okay? So, verbs are words that express action or state of being. Okay? Don't worry about the word state of being. You're going to learn about that one later. But let's go first with actions. It expresses actions. Let's say action, of course, actions. Like for example, eating, drinking, dancing, cooking, singing, kayaking, unsa pa man, playing, shooting. So those are the verbs. Okay, they express actions. Magpakita sila og actions, and there are 3 types of verbs. So we have the action verbs, we have the linking verbs, and we have the helping verbs. So action, linking, og helping. Or other words for helping is the auxiliary verbs. Okay? Now, Sir Kevin, unsa day ni ang action verbs? Okay? An action verb these are words that express action or possession. Let's say for example, kana naka-bold sa ato ang illustration karon. I find your lack of faith disturbing. Okay? So kanang find dira, di ba? Find is an action. I find, di ba? I find your faith disturbing. Or for example, in our second example, your eyes can deceive you. Do not trust them. So kanang deceive, kanang trust are all actions. Okay? So those are what we call action verbs. Now there are also verbs that do not have an action and mauna ni ang state of being, or what we call the linking verbs. Okay? And linking verbs connect the subject of a sentence to a noun or a adjective that renames or describes the subject. So ingon ani ni siya, the subject and then the object, and then the linking verb of course links the two of them. Okay? So for example, here, I do not mind kanang naa sa parenthesis ha, but then you are my enemy. Okay? You are my enemy. So you, kinsa ning si you? You ang enemy, di ba? So ato sila gi-connect. Ang kanang R dira is only a connection to the you and the enemy, because you and enemy are the same person. And for example, in our second example, it is a trap. Okay? So if it and then atong is a connection to the trap, because it and trap are the same thing. And kung unsa ganining noun or adjective nga nag-describe sa subject, it is what we call a subject complement. Gi-complement niya ang subject. So for example, you, an enemy. So gi-complement niya ang you. So kinsa maning you? Ang enemy. Unsa maning it? A trap. Okay? So kanang naa sa tumoy, kanang naa sa after sa verb is what we call the subject complement. Okay, so here are the linking verbs that we are going to learn today, or you're going to refresh, because some of you may have already talked about this, and some of you may have already learned about this, and this may just be a review for you. Okay, now there are two types of linking verbs. We have the to-be verbs, and we have the sensory verbs. And always remember, ang kanina mga verbs, if linking verbs gani siya, can be replaced by the word is. Okay? And here are our examples of the to-be verbs. So we have is, am, are, was, were, be, been, being. And I hope you will memorize this one, or at least familiarize yourself, because this will be very useful for you. Okay? So that's am, is, are, was, were, be, being, been. Okay? Am is, this is very easy. Am, is, are, was, were, be, being, been. I hope you will memorize these linking verbs. Okay? Now, ang kaning mga to-be verbs, I have an example, okay? So, inaanay paggamit ang linking verbs. So, this is a new day. A new beginning. So, ang kanang this o kanang day, gi-connect na siya by the word is. Because the this na gipasabot sa kanang speaker o ang day dira are the same thing. Parehas na sila. So, this is a new day. Okay? Or for example, kani, I am your father. Okay? So when you say, I am your father, ang I o ang father are the same person. It's just being connected by the word am. Now, let's try to replace am with is. Okay? Mauni ako ang gingon ganiha. You have to replace is para may bawaan na to if linking verb siya. So let's say for example, I am your father. Tagalog na to, I is your brother. It may sound ungrammatical, but it will help you determine if ang kana siya is a linking verb. For example here, you were my brother Anakin. Oh? If you were my brother, you were my brother Anakin. So, ang kanang you ug ang brother are both the same things. You is my brother. You are my brother. Pwede ra gyud na to gamiton bisag unsa nga to be verbs dira, but I like you to use is kay mas easy siya. Easy. Diba? Gets? Easy. I want you to use the word is because it's easy. Okay. Anyway, enough jokes. Okay? So, mao na siya. These are our to-be verbs. Okay? These are our to-be verbs. And these to-be verbs can be replaced by the word is or kaning anything here. Okay? Anything na naa sa lista sa to-be verbs. But again, I encourage you to use the word is. Okay? Now, let's go to our next type of linking verb, which is what we call the sensory verbs. And the sensory verbs are here in our example. So, mao na sila. You have look, sound, smell, taste, appear, become, grow, remain, seem, stay, turn, and prove. So, mao na siya atong gitawag na mga sensory verbs. Okay? Now, these are examples of sensory verbs in a sentence. So, for example, he became a member of the dark side. Or for example, his voice sounds awful. Or the drinks taste funny. Okay? But wait a minute. How are we going to know if ang words na atong gigamit is a linking verb or an action verb? Kay actually, we can taste, di ba? But not all taste can be replaced by the word is. How are we going to know? Okay? So let's say for example here, okay? Are the sentences below using a linking verb? Okay? So nagamit ba ni sila og linking verb? So for example here, the watermelon tastes sweet. And the second sentence is I tasted the watermelon. Okay? What you're going to do again is we're going to replace it with the word what? With the word is. Okay? Or any of the to-be verbs. Bisag unsa ato nga to-be verbs, but again, I like you to use the word is. Okay? So let's say for example, atong i-replace ang taste with is. Okay? For the two sentences, atong i-listen ang taste with the word is. Okay? So let's say for example, our first example would say, the watermelon is sweet. Is it grammatical? Yes. It's grammatical, it makes sense. So, that taste there is a linking verb because the watermelon there the watermelon is being described as sweet. Unsa may sweet ana nga sentence? Very good. Ang watermelon. Now, let's say for example, let's go to our second example. I tasted the watermelon. Let's replace tasted with is. Okay? I is the watermelon. Does it make sense? No, diba? So, that means not all of the katong sensory verbs is a linking verb. That's why we have to replace it with the word is. So, when yung tag, I is the watermelon. So, ako ang watermelon. Diba? Dili. So, that means, I am the doer here of the tasting. Ako may nagtilaw sa watermelon. Therefore, this one is a linking, this one is an action verb because I actually taste the watermelon. Okay? So, pwede siya, if ma-replace gani siya og is, that is a, what? That is a linking verb. But, if it cannot be replaced by the word is, or any of the to-be verbs there, that is what we call a action verb. Ma-action verb na siya. And lastly, of our verbs, we're going to go with our helping verbs. Gatabang ra siya. Therefore, if gatabang gani siya, dili siya ka stand alone because it only conveys additional information. A sentence can live without an helping verb, but a helping verb helps you know the possibility or the time of any action. Okay? Let's say for example, ani atong example. I will never turn to the dark side. Pwede mo mayon, I turn to the other side. But if kung I turn to the other side ta, din atong ganahan ipasabot is dili day ko moadto sa dark side, then it won't make sense. That is why we need the helping verbs to help us kung unsa atong ipasabot. Okay, these helping verbs are our helping verbs. Gatabang siya sa ato ang sentence. Okay? So, for example, you cannot stop. Pwede ito may you stop the change, diba? You stop the change. But buta na itong can. You cannot stop the change any more than you can stop the suns from setting. Okay? So, muna siya, we need the helping verbs para makabuo ta og nindot nga meaning. And the main verb together with its accompanying helping verb is what we call a verb phrase. Mao ni siya ato gitawag nga verb phrase. Okay? Now here are the examples of the helping verbs that you are going to learn. And some of the helping verbs are also in the linking verbs. Okay? That's why it's important again to you to ask to put the letter is, to put the word is on the sentence. Okay? So, mauna siya. So, we have the am, is, are, be, being, been, can, could, did, do, does, have, has, had, may, might, must, ought to, shall, should, was, were, and will, and would. Okay, so mauna siya itong mga helping verbs and I hope you will memorize these helping verbs because, again, this will help you in your making of sentences. Let's say, for example, here in our helping verbs. Okay? Determine the helping verb and the main verb of the following sentences. So first we have here, Miggy is going to Vietnam. And the second, he might pass through Cambodia. I will give you time to think. Asa dira ang helping verb ug asa dira ang main verb. Okay? Pause the video and I want you to think asa dira ang helping ug asa dira ang main nga verb. Go. Okay, humana? Are you done? So, in the first sentence, what is the helping verb? Okay. It's good. The helping verb there is the word is. Okay? And the main verb is what? The main verb is going. Very good. Very good. Now, let's go to the second example. He might pass through Cambodia. Asa man nato ang helping verb diri? The helping verb is good. The helping verb there is might. And the main verb, what is the main verb there? The main verb is pass. Very good. So mao na siya atong mga helping verbs. Now, let's go to the verb tense. Mao na ni, gapaduol na ta sa atong topic. Now we talked about what they call this. We talked about the kinds of verbs. Now let's go to the verb tense. Now, a tense of a verb tells you how an action relates to a flow of time or kanusa siya nahitabo. A tense will tell you kanusa nahitabo ang action. And there are three types of verb tenses. We have the present tense, the past tense, and the future tense. And I know you know this one. You know, present tense, it's still happening right now. Past tense, nahumana siya, it's already done. And in the future tense, it will be done. It will be done in the future. Buhaton pa siya inig ka future. So, muna itong verb tense. And then, ang kanang mga tenses, divided pa gyud siya into 4 aspects. And we have these 4 aspects. We have the simple, we have the progressive, we have the perfect, and we have the perfect progressive. O kana siyang upat, i-apply ni nato atong tulo ka book. So, for example, natay simple past, simple present, o simple future. Naputay present progressive, past progressive, o future progressive, and so on and so forth. Ingon na siya. Okay? Now, let's go. Don't worry, we're only going to talk about the past and the past perfect tense today. Okay, so you're only going out of the 12 possible combinations. You're only going to learn about the 2 very important tenses that you have to learn. Now, a simple past is a verb tense which is used to show that a completed past action took place in a specific time in the past. The simple past is also frequently used to talk about past habits and generalizations. It is often formed using the verb, kung say verb, plus ed. Okay, remember that one? A simple past is created by verb plus ed. So for example, cook. So ang iyang past tense will be cooked. And if for example, dance, butangan na itong ed, mahimo siya danced. Very good. However, there are irregular verbs that you have to familiarize. Okay? And I encourage you, after you watch the video, you check the PDF that I have given you in the Google Classroom. Na dito ang mga list of the simple tense of the verb, and then iyang past tense, and then ang iyang past participle. Okay? Because daghan ni sila ng mga irregular verbs. So for example, Sir Kevin, what are irregular verbs? So for example, kung yung taog kuan, past tense of freeze. If regular verb siya, mahimo siyang freezed. But diba, unsa may past tense sa freeze? Unsa past tense sa freeze? Froze, diba? Oh. So that's an irregular verb. So dili na nato pwede makuan. Dili na nato pwede mabutangan lag ed. Okay? And that is why you need to familiarize it. Okay, dili man ay kung ina magdadakag PDF all the time with all the kanang irregular verbs, di ba? Dili. So sayon naman siya. Freeze, froze, frozen, di ba? So ano siya? Dali gid kay siya. So I hope you're going to memorize the best. I really like you to memorize it, okay? But if dili kaya memorize, don't worry, you can just familiarize it. Now let's go to the simple past. Unsaon ni nato paggamit ang simple past? Now, we use simple past when number 1, when we need to show a completed action in the past. Use the simple past to express the idea that an action started and finished at a specific time in the past. So, kanang X mauna siya. It happened in a specific time in the past. Let's say for example here, I saw a movie yesterday. Or, last year I traveled to Japan. Or, she washed her car. Okay? So, yun na siya ang atong simple past. Pwede rin mo magbutang og time, like for example, kaning yesterday or last year, pwede rin po og dili. But then, if that action happened in the past, it started and finished at the specific time in the past, then it is a simple past. And if simple past, gani, unsay formation niya? Verb plus ed. Very good. Now let's go to our next use. How can we use simple past number 2 when there is a series of complicated events? Let's say for example here, I finished work, walked to the beach, and found a nice place to swim. All of those are in the past tense. Diba? So, kanang tulo ka X dra, mauna ang mga previous actions, and all those actions happen in the past. Okay? Another example here, he arrived from the airport at 3, checked into the hotel at 9, and met the others at 10. So, kana siya puros na siya past tense. Next gamit sa ato ang simple past is when we use it for in a specific duration in the past. So, unsa mo kadugay yun nagbuhat sa action in the past. So, which starts and stops in the past. Okay? So, dili pare atong first natong gi-talk about nga one-time action lang siya kani pwede siya a duration. But then it starts and stops in the past. Let's say for example, here, I lived in Bohol for 2 years. So, katong 2 years, kanang 2 years, in the past na siya. So, mauna, simple past na itong gamiton. Or, for example, Shona studied Japanese for 5 years. Kanang 5 years, humana na siya. So, studied. Okay? And they sat at the beach all day. Tibuok adlaw. So, ang kanang tibuok adlaw, nahuman naman siya. So, they sat. So, simple past ang ato ang gamiton. And sat there is an irregular verb. And again, I will ask you to please memorize or at least familiarize the list of irregular verbs and their past participles. Next, kinsa pa may makagamit sa simple past when we talk about habits in the past. Oh, ato na siya pirming ginabuhat, but then in the past na siya. Okay? It has the same meaning as the word used to. Okay? So, mao nang daghang kay X dira kay habit man siya pirmi yung buhaton. So, for example kanang palahubog imong papa. Before niya gidawat ang Ginoo. Let's say for example ang inana. Before niya gidawat ang Ginoo, palahubog siya. So, my father drank. Oh. So, pasabot ana, niinom imong papa, but habit to niya, but then karon wala na. Past tense na siya. Human na to. Let's say, for example here, I studied the piano in my elementary days. Alangan, elementary pa karon nga high school naman mo. So, I studied the piano. Nagsige kog study pag elementary, pero wala na karon. Okay? And also, they never attended the class. They just snoozed off. Wala, gid sila mo apilo klase, natulog na sila. So, those are habits in the past. So, atong buhaton is the verb plus ed. Okay? And lastly, we use the simple past when we talk about past facts and generalizations. Facts siya pero dili na siya tinuod karon. Or mga generalization siya nga tinuod before in the past. Okay? Dili na sila tinuod. Okay? Let's say for example, Pluto was excluded as part of the solar system. Oh, excluded siya pero karon dili na biya, di ba? Kay apil naman siya balik sa solar system. So, mahitabo niya is magamit ta og simple past tense of the verb. Okay? Let's say for example here, she was shy as a child. So pagkabata, shy siya. Pero karon baga na signaw. Di ba? Or, for example, he didn't like tomatoes before. Before lang. Pero karon ganahan na siya og tomatoes. Or for example, people paid much more to make cell phone calls in the past. Kay past naman to. Oh. So, past tense po na to ang gamiton. And take note ha, ang kaning paid there, ang kanang paid is a irregular verb. And again, I urge you to please memorize the list of the past tense and the past participles. Okay. Now, let's go to the past perfect. Manata sa past tense. Now, let's go to the past perfect. Now, the past perfect is a verb tense which is used to show that an action took place once or many times before another point in the past. So, puro siya past. Okay? Yung nani ni siya. Na ay past, di ba? This is present. Let's say, for example, present is siya. Then, na ay past. Okay? Ang kanang action ni mo nga gibuhat pa gito nimo, napoy gibuhat lain. So, mao na siya, an action took place once or many times before another point in the past. And the past perfect is formed using had plus the past participle. Okay? And again, please familiarize yourself with the past participles in the PDF na ako ihatag. Now, kanusa na nato gamiton na simple past? When we complete an action, when the action is completed before something in the past. It expresses the idea that something occurred before another action in the past. So makita ninyo na ang X dira, mao na ang point. And kanang something you did in the past is kanang naka-blue. Okay, blue nga dot. Okay? Let's say for example here, in our example, I had never seen such a beach before. I had never seen. Before I went to Bantayan, another action in the past. Okay? So dapat na kasi when you make sentences with simple past, kanang na had plus plus the past participle, dapat na siya action nga naag-indicate before. Let's say, for example, I did not have any money because I had lost my wallet. Oh. Nag-unag ka-loss akong wallet because na-loss akong wallet, wala na ko'y kwarta. And that's why we use the had. Had lost. Okay? Again, simple past is used when an action is completed before something in the past. Okay? So puro sila past. Now we go to our second usage of the past perfect tense. How are we going to use it? When it is a duration before something in the past. Okay? It shows that something started in the past and continued up until another action in the past. So again, puros na sila past. Okay? So, for example here, we had that car for 10 years. And again, had is a grammatical, grammatical na siya. We had that car for 10 years before it broke down. Or, by the time Alex finished his studies, he had been in London for over 8 years. Okay? So, mao na siya. Naay something in the action, na kay point of reference in the past, and then ay action nga nahitabo before pagid ana. Okay? So for example, sa atong first sentence, naatay sakyanan for 10 years before it broke down. Okay? So that is something duration. Dugay man na ninyo keep ang car. So you had that car for 10 years before it broke down. Okay? Sige. So don't worry if you are any way confused. Please let me know. Okay? Please let me know if it is your time. If Archimedes and Copper, if it is your time, please, if naglibog mo, call me. Call me on Messenger. Basta inyo lang yung time. Again, I will not entertain you if dili inyong time. Okay? And if you have also questions, you can also put it in the exit ticket and then I will try my best to explain it in the question time for this lesson. Okay? So thank you everyone for watching this lesson. I hope you have learned something. This is Sir Kevin. Thank you and have a good day.